right, welcome back to the Patriot Hour for Saturday, December 28th, 2019. I am Michael, your host. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for giving us some time. We know it's valuable. You're busy in your day-to-day doing the things you do. But we got an interesting article here. If you are new, make sure you're subscribed. Look down below after you hit the subscribe. Think about joining, becoming a member. Take a look down below. We got all the links. Also ring the bell. And if you ring the bell after you subscribe, look at how YouTube alerts you and your device. Or your tablet, your phone, whatever it is, but it'll ask you how you want to be alerted, and for live shows, for shows like this, just however you want to keep up. All right, whatever's best and most annoying for you and your device. All right. Okay, we got an article here straight out of the American Thinker. It's a good one, so you don't want to miss this. Again, we're going to jump right into it. Make sure you're subscribed. Again, at the Patriot Hour, we always encourage you to think for yourself, do for yourself, collect all your own dots, listen to everybody, read everything you can, believe none of it. Don't believe a lick of it until you can verify it yourself. All right, do your own research. The days of being spoon-fed auto truth are over. That's how we got into this mess in the first place. Okay, right here, the American Thinker, a little article from Frank Watt. 2 possibilities in Trump wiretapping, and neither is good. This came on December 27th of 2019. So just yesterday. Okay, the report of the IG's findings on the use of FISA in the FBI Crossfire Hurricane investigation is an outrage. As a 22-year FBI agent, I personally have conducted multiple investigations using both Title III wiretaps and FISA-authorized intercepts. From this perspective, I can only see 2 possibilities in interpretations of the actions of the FBI and the DOJ. Either scenario should anger and frighten every fair-minded citizen who takes the time to read the report and understands its implications. To comprehend the magnitude of the wrongdoing, consider the following. First, an American citizen, Carter Page, was targeted by our government for electronic surveillance under FISA, under the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. Per the Act, his Fourth Amendment guarantee of privacy was judicially suspended to allow law enforcement to intercept and monitor his private communications. So, folks, basically that means, and we know this, now you got to keep in mind that he was working for the CIA. And the FBI would have known this because they took him to court back in 2013. I did a video on that. Back in 2013, he got caught up. He retired from the Navy. And then for 04 to 2013, he was like contracted working for the CIA. And did things with them going towards mostly Russia, because he had a good background in Russia. He was actually stationed in Russia. And then when he retired from the Navy, he actually was a banker over there. And then that's when he was kind of working for the CIA while in Russia. So in 2013, you fast forward all that, he was still working with them, but hadn't done any kind of job or work. This is Carter Page, mind you, for about a year. They said 8 months, 9 months, 10 months. And then he's looking to get in the energy game, and he's out in New York, and he gets confronted by a Russian at like a place where you would go where there's a huge convention, basically a convention on a weekend at, a rented out hall, and there's tons of people there that are all about that business. All right, people that are coming from around the country to look at technologies or where to open up new businesses, and it's just a place to mingle. And while he's there, he gets confronted by this Russian that basically Carter picks up that he's a spy. The guy says he works for the UN from Russia legally, but he's really blah, blah, blah. And then Carter runs back, gets a hold of the CIA, and they kind of make him active again. In the midst of all this, the FBI has been looking at that Russian, and then they kind of pick up on Carter Page as a civilian working with Russians, but then they find out through court and everything else that he works for the CIA. They press no charges against Carter Page, and he walks free. He should. He was working for the U.S. government as well, doing his job. This is one of those cross-intermingling things where communication doesn't flow well. Fast forward to 2016, They're doing it again. They're using some of his old information to spy on him, basically. Months other things are going on, but so the FISA court would allow his intrusion based on presented fact that the indicted that Page was participating in activity that was reasonably considered to be a threat to the national security and was, in effect, the agent of a foreign power. According to the IG, the determination to surveil Page was based on secondhand information provided by a member of a friendly foreign government. Remember that, all right? FFG. And bolstered by reporting in the Steele dossier, accepting the subjective judgment that the investigation was adequately predicated does not magitate the disaster that followed. What's that saying? Mitigate. All right, mitigate the disaster that followed. So, accepting the subjective judgment that the investigation was adequately predicated. Now, you're going to hear that a lot. You already heard that with the FBI when that transmission came in. Everything looks great. And to most people in the office, it might. Normal protocol. Well, what happened the morning of this? Well, I got called into James Comey's office. He showed me some things, told me something, and then told me to go start this. And I did. That's how it normally works. It could look all legit. But we know that transmission was faulty from the other end. It's like so many times people, go through their process of how things were done right, or, well, after the traffic stop and we started going through the car, it was all good. It's like, well, wait, why did you ever stop it? And then you find out that one little thing was illegal. Kind of negates everything else. But time and time again, this will be a little different for sure. Durham, I have every bit of faith in Durham doing the job and what he's going to report. So typically a FISA warrant is issued to target a foreign national, and in general the resulting intercepts come largely from overseas communications. FISA generally requires a lower evidentiary threshold than Title III wiretap. FISA generally requires a lower evidentiary threshold than Title III wiretap, used to intercept and monitor communications in domestic criminal matters. To use a FISA surveillance against a U.S. citizen is somewhat exceptional. Exceptional step. Basically, it negates constitutional protections afforded to all Americans based on the judicial determination that the citizen is acting as an agent of a foreign power. Because electronic surveillance wiretap is so intrusive, it's rightfully subject to intensive judicial scrutiny. Additionally, because evidence gathered in it is used in a singular effective law enforcement in general, and the FBI and the DOJ in particular, scrupulously protect the integrity of the process. No law enforcement officer of any worth would stand before a judge and swear to an affidavit that he or she suspected was not completely true and accurate. No competent supervisory chain of command would permit that to happen. To risk the loss or restriction of that invaluable tool would be unacceptable. But yet, before we go on, I believe that's what happened here, right? That's exactly what happened. Because if you go through all these things and you really think Carter was, you should have enough evidence and really convince a judge, which they couldn't, so they had to make things up. But at the end of it, they got nothing. Carter is one that walked free, but they really intrusively, we kind of thought. We really just kind of really had an inkling that he was. You'd think after all that, you better produce some result. Otherwise, you're done. You're in trouble. Like, it's like not enough to be like, well, we thought, and after thorough investigation of 2 years into this guy's life, we determined that he worked for the CIA. Who would have known? So in my course of my FBI career, I have authorized multiple affidavits in support of wiretap investigations. Among these cases were investigations of significant profile to be included in the daily briefing of the Director Mueller, as well as entities to the Pentagon, Department of State, and to the White House. In every case, I stood before the judge to obtain the authorization to conduct the wiretap. My supporting affidavit had been checked, rechecked, and approved by, at a minimum, the principal legal advisory of my field office, the line prosecutors and U.S. Attorney's Office for the appropriate jurisdiction. DOJ attorneys at the Office of Enforcement Operations at Main Justice and program managers, legal counsel, division heads at the FBI headquarters. My point in describing this process is to illustrate the exhaustive and thorough review to which these non-headlining generating investigations, so every other case that you don't hear about, are highly subjected to. Although many of my cases were relatively high profile, they are all in pale comparison to the once-in-a-lifetime historical magnitude of the Crossfire Hurricane case. Historical magnitude. See, some people just don't get this. So they're going to try to cover and lie and subvert and just tread all over our Constitution, or the things that even this isn't constitutional in any means, but, it's only here to save you. Trust us. And here they go. They went after the president. The implications of intercepting the communications of a U.S. citizen who is associated with the political campaign of a candidate seeking the presidency rings nearly every bell in the FBI's and Attorney General's guidelines for sensitive investigations. As discussed in the IG report, by the regulation, these cases cannot be initiated without written approval of the director and the Attorney General. In addition to the approval obviously granted by director and AG, the IG's report identified the following additional high-level officials who reviewed and approved the Page FISA affidavit. NSD's acting assistant attorney general, NSD's deputy assistant attorney general with oversight over 01's operations section chief and deputy section chief, the DAG, principal associate deputy attorney general, and the associate deputy attorney general responsible for the ODAG's national security portfolio. The suggestion that somehow 17 significant errors, omissions of facts, falsehoods, or deliberate misinterpretations made their way into the FISA affidavits accidentally at the hand of an anonymous case agent and then were not immediately noted and corrected throughout the course of the exceptional review process is not believable. To further strain credibility and asked to believe that during the renewal process, which happened 3 more times, right? No one involved in the process notified or noticed that there were no exculpatory evidence being generated by the intercepts. Keep in mind, Page's communications were continuously monitored for approximately 11 months. In order for the intercepts to continue after the initial authorization period, the FBI director and the acting attorney general themselves had to review the fruits of the wire, judge them to be investigatively significant, and determine that there was adequate justification to continue to spy on Carter Page. By signing off on the renewals, certifying the FISA judge that they found Page intercepts were producing evidence of an ongoing national security threat. The fact that they allowed an unnamed FBI agent to swear their renewal affidavits doesn't relieve them of the responsibility for the outcome, nor does it allow for the "I can't be aware of every aspect of the case" excuse. So well put out by James Comey for over 2 years, or not for 2 years, but in the last 2 weeks. After acting, things are like perfect for 2 years. Then it turns into, wow, I'm a busy man at the head of the FBI. And you weren't for Hillary's. You were actually went out of your way, did a little speech, Mr. Comey. So based on what we are told by the IG, there are only 2 possible conclusions that can be reached regarding the official conduct of those responsible for infringing on Carter Page's constitutional freedoms. The first is the hand-selected team of investigators, attorneys, and SES, senior executive service officials, with decades of law enforcement and administrative and judicial experience, where abject failures at the task were hired to perform. Speaking from personal experience in the FBI and DEA and the state and local wiretap investigations, the slightest omissions, misstatements, clerical errors, and routinely identified and corrected by the street agents and line prosecutors who does the investigative for a living, to believe that a varsity level team with unlimited time, support, and resources somehow inadvertently overlooked 17 major omissions, misstatements, and or outright falsehoods is simply not believable. The second possibility is that nearly everyone who significantly participated in obtaining FISA coverage on Page knowingly and deliberately operated outside of the law to one degree or another. The reasons behind the decision to do so are irrelevant. The particulars regarding the 17 IG findings are startling, taken individually. So the particulars regarding those, or the reasons behind the decision, is irrelevant. You know, for Comey to be like, well, for you to say there was bias or we couldn't find it, we don't care if there's bias. You look at something like that, or did you guys do it on? It doesn't even matter. Instant, just for that being pointed out. We don't need to hear your mouth, Mr. Comey. We don't need to hear your lies of why or maybe not or sloppy. You changed words for Hillary. Loretta Lynch told you to, and you said it bugged you. It struck you odd. You got a nauseous feeling in your stomach. But you did it. You talk about Trump asking for loyalty for the country. You take it to be for himself, mob style. But you didn't do it. It shook you. Loretta Lynch told you to change words, and this matter. We don't do matters. We don't do reviews. We do criminal investigations. But you wouldn't change the word after she told you to. Big difference there. Words matter. Chump. So the second possibility, like we said, is nearly everyone who significantly participated did it deliberately. And their decision behind that is just irrelevant. All right. The particulars regarding these 17 IG findings are startling, taken individually. It's difficult to see how any individual omission or misstatement could have happened accidentally, because they all line up to get you what you wanted. All their errors lined up like dominoes to lead to one place, to make sure they kept spying on Page or this person. So viewed collectively, the apparent intentionality is nearly impossible to reconcile as anything but corruption. In the light of the IG findings, the presiding FISA court judge seems to have come down on the side of the intentional abuse. In a recent court order, Judge Rosemary Collier gave the FBI until January 10th to explain to the court why the FBI should be allowed to continue to utilize FISA. The statements that the FBI withheld material, information, and that the FBI personally misled the NSD suggest the judge isn't buying the series of unfortunate events. The excuse peddled by prominent figures in the defense of the indefensible. So whichever explanation seems more likely to end, the end result should be infuriating to every American. Either your nation's premier law enforcement agency was breathtakingly incompetent when the stakes were at the highest, or the select officials in the organization made deliberate decisions to break the law, undermine the Constitution, and illegally spy on a fellow American, retired naval man that went on to help the CIA and be a mole, somebody for them to work against foreign people that everyone's so worried about. Russia. So either possibility has deeply damaged the reputation of the FBI and the DOJ, in addition to the reputations of thousands of honest FBI agents, DOJ attorneys. Despite the legitimate concerns of civil libertarians, the FISA process has indisputably proved an invaluable resource in safeguarding the country from terrorism. If the heinous abuses documented on the IG's report result in the weakening or the loss of FISA, we will all be in for worse for it. If those responsible are not held to account, this will happen again. There is no happy face to put on this episode. If those responsible are not held to account, this will happen again. There's no happy face to put on this episode. This author is a 1983 graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy. Served for over 22 years as an FBI special agent, supervisor special agent, and FBI SWAT team leader. There you go. And I'll throw this out. I originally caught this thread over here on Thompson S. Hunter. Hunter S. Thompson backwards. Thank Mirror. But this guy had posted this, and I just kind of did a search. Frank Wyatt or Watt. I've heard of him before, so I did a search and found the actual article. But all right, we will shut this one down at the 20-minute mark. Again, folks, that's great information. Keep that in mind. That is about right. It's either one or the other. You can't have always takes me back, the I hate De Niro, but the movie Casino, he ends up firing that guy. The machine went off. 3 jackpots in a row. He comes down on the floor and he fires the guy in the you can't fire me. And then the guy's uncle comes in and he's like, hey, you fired our cousin Eddie. We know he's a jackass and he's not the smartest of the family. And he's like, yeah, that's right. Either the guy was in on that jackpot getting hit 3 times or was too stupid to know that it was happening. Either way, it's no good for the casino. Boom. This is no good for the country. Either you're too stupid, which we know is not the case. But they're trying to play that now. All right, these head people are trying to play that they're just couldn't keep up with it all. Couldn't keep up with it all. This is into the presidential campaign. This is a very the highest profile case ever of the FBI to go down in the books, and you muffed it up. All the reviews that this guy just brought out, you guys didn't catch it. You didn't make any errors or correct your errors. You made 17. Unbelievable. Leave your comments down below, folks, and we will, of course, we'll be back with more very soon. Always working on something, and you guys know that. Again, I'm Michael. This is Patriot Hour. God bless. Godspeed to each and every one of you. Give a thumbs up on your way out. Share the video across all your social media platforms. Think about joining. Think about subscribing. Think about the comment section down below. Some of the greatest Patriots all over the world right here. Part of the Patriot Hour. Joining in. Part of the conversation. Point you in the right directions. Great stuff. Greatest group of Patriots a fellow ever did meet. Think about the Patriots Fest, Legion flag retirement, the ride. Join us August of 2020, months before the election. It's going to be a great time to get together, meet face to face. Again, that's Patriots with an S, Patriots Fest, F-E-S-T, 2020 at Gmail. Drop us a line. Get ready to send something back to everybody that's emailed that account. All right, I'm Michael, Patriot Hour. God bless. Where we go one, we go all. Love and light.